Okay, so this week's tarot reading for the week ahead. This week I'm using the Orion's Animal Tarot, which is a lovely tarot. It is an animal tarot. I don't know all the animals, but I know the cards and I know the energy that they carry, so we'll go with that. And this week's spread, I'll just talk you through before we go into the cards. We've got a full moon this week, right? Tomorrow, Tuesday, is the full moon, and so it's funny. Different full moons hit differently, don't they? And this one has been. I've noticed. Don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed the energy of it's been kind of slowly building, slowly building, slowly building as the moon has been waxing. So. The first position in our spread is what is peaking this week, what is coming to full this week, and that's our central position in the spread. Now, the full moon, or any time really that you get to interact with the moon, that you notice the moon in the sky, can be very magical, and we can do magic with the full moon. And the kinds of magic that we can do can be about manifesting, because it's this kind of peak energy, it's at its fullest, reflecting. The moon, of course, reflects the sun's light, releasing, going into the next moon phase where the moon starts to wane. But I always like the full moon for manifesting, celebrating, full energy, full power, from that full moon. And so this position here is the magic that we have available to us this week. So we have what's peaking this week and the magic that's available. And of course, magic isn't something that just happens. Usually, sometimes it just happens, but it is something that we are involved in. We do magic. In whatever way that we do that, magic is something that we participate in, and it's something that we have agency in, and that gives us agency. So that's what this position here in the spread is all about, the magic that we have access to this week and that we can choose whether or not to take advantage of. Down here you see these waves. The ocean is pulled by the moon, as is the water in our bodies, and underneath the ocean we have the depths. So this position here is about what is unconscious, unseen. This is sometimes one of the interpretations as well of the actual tarot card, the moon. So this is what is unconscious this week, that may be being influenced by these other energies around, but that may also have its own strong pull. You think of how strong the tides are and the currents that really move all across the world. They go deep and they go far. I live in Portugal. I live here in the southwest of Portugal, and in the Algarve we have a lot of surfers here, and all up the west coast. And we have some amazing huge waves, which are the result of currents, very deep currents, coming from, a very long way away across the ocean, but not across the top of the ocean, under the ocean. So these are the deep currents this week. This is what's happening unconsciously this week. And remember, the unconscious can influence us in various ways. So it's worth being aware of what is there, just so that we know. Then we can decide what to dive into, what to float on the surface of, and what to stay on the shore of this week. And then we've got two more positions. So we've got guidance. The moon is often associated with intuition, and intuition can be associated with guidance. So this is our guidance for the week, how we can receive it, where it's coming from, what it is. And then here we have, of course, lunacy. And lunacy is one of my favourite effects of the full moon. Lunacy is something which is we get pulled by the full moon just as the tides do. So lunacy and the word lunatic, I prefer to emphasize it as lunatic, in olden times were associated with what we might now identify as mental illness, but the definitions of mental illness went to anyone who didn't conform. So I don't like to describe lunacy as mental illness. It's a different thing. You know, we all have mental health and mental illness sometimes. That's a different thing. Lunacy is this kind of divine madness, inspiration. It's that pull in you when you see the full moon out there in the sky. I'm pointing that way because just over there is where the moon rises for me at its full, where I am. And so lunacy is this feeling of being drawn by the energies. And I want to be very clear on that. I want to be very specific on that, just because it is a different thing from mental illness, and there's no shame in mental illness as well, but we need to be clear when we're talking about these things. So lunacy is the pull of the energies, the inspiration, the going with the flow, I suppose, almost. So that is our spread for the week, and I'll go ahead and pull some cards. So I invite you now to take a deep breath, go inside, and just ask to receive what you need from this reading. And if there is something that you are working through, have been working through, or that you're wondering about, you can just pose that question now as well, trusting that you'll receive what's appropriate for you at this time. Okay, so the first position then of the full moon, what is peaking for us this week? And it's a major arcana card, the star. And look at this, it's beautiful. I love that it is in this full moon reading. This is a card that's both celestial and of the depths. So you see there a jellyfish with a compass. And the star I tend to read as being all about how we show up in our authenticity, how we get into flow, talking about that lunacy, the pull of the energies, and allowing ourselves to flow with them. So perhaps non-resistance here in this card, and really about showing up as all that you are, including any vulnerability that is associated with that. And then, you know, as a star, you shine and you see this glow, and it looks almost like a lunar orb, doesn't it? Within that jellyfish there. So the jellyfish is sort of going through the oceans, deep in the depths, so in touch with the unconscious, with the intuition, in flow. I don't know to what extent jellyfish are taken by the current, but I believe that they are. Where they go depends on the current. So there's an aspect of surrender in there as well, to acceptance of what is, and sort of allowing yourself to also travel far, you know, to go to new spaces, because there are big distances in these currents. So in terms of this position here of what is peaking this week, we have a reminder to really be in our authenticity, in our vulnerability, to find the things that flow for us, and to allow ourselves to be in that flow, to be a part of that flow. And this is something that's naturally happening, just as the moon is naturally waxing, just as the jellyfish is naturally in the sea there. The star can also be about you know, when you get a shooting star, sometimes it's an omen, it means something, or you can make a wish on it. These things are available to us as well, that we have we can make a wish. And also with this sort of compass direction shape that we have in this card, we can direct ourselves. So we have an invitation here to surrender into the flow, but not in a kind of, oh, I can't direct the flow, so I might as well just let go. There might be some of that in there, but actually in an orientation way. So, you know, this is the flow that's going in the direction that I want to go in. I'll just let myself be part of that current, be one with that current. So that is the star in the position of what is peaking this week. And then we have underneath that magic. So magic, this magic, what's available to us this week, and magic that we can choose to participate in, that we can choose to amplify, that we can choose to help connect us to that direction, to that flow that's available. So how do we get in tune with the magic this week? And we've got the Two of Wands. I love this card. I'm wondering if this came up last time I read with this deck. It's the Orion's Animal Tarot deck. So the Two of Wands you see here, although Wands is a suit of fire, the animals that we've got in here are birds, which are creatures of the air. And so Wands is about fire, it's about inspiration. And the Two of Wands is about sort of putting things into motion, making things happen. So really appropriate actually for this position of magic. And you see here that these two, I think they're blue jays, are carrying twigs. So I'm not sure exactly what the plant is that they're carrying, but they're carrying two of them. Those are their wands. So they have taken a resource, a material, and they are taking it to create the space that they want to create. So with two birds, presumably a nest, but you know, whatever it is that they want to build, they're taking those resources and directing it towards it. So we get that with magic, don't we? That, you know, we direct our resources towards something, and that intention in that directing of resources is a huge part of the magic. And then it's also, this is a two, so this is about bringing together two things. So when these two J's come together, that's a different thing altogether than just one bird on its own. So whether that's about working together with other people around you, or bringing two different elements together in a way that you may or may not have done previously, or may not feel intuitive, and seeing how they work together, that's where the magic's at this week. Under the water then, in the depths, what is there in the unconscious? What's working with us in the unconscious this week? It's another major arcana, the Magician. So here we go. It's all about magic this week. The magic is all there and available to us. We've got the Star, we've got the Two of Wands, we've got the Magician in the unconscious, and the Magician is the person who creates magic, who does magic, who directs. You know, we talked about directing resources. The wands can also represent energy, and the Magician directs their energy. Well, firstly, they tap into the energies around them. So when you see decks with a human on, often you'll see the Magician standing kind of like this, one hand raised up to the skies and one hand down to the earth. And they are becoming that connection between the metaphysical and the material. The Magician is the bridge between the two. So that tells us that there in the unconscious, we have all of the magic, all of the resources that we need. And so working with the unconscious can be a good thing this week. And there's lots of different ways to do that, and tarot work is is one of them. And then here in this image, we've actually got a couple of snakes, and all of the different elements are there, because that is one of the messages of the magician. There's a balancing of elements, there's a bringing in of all the elements. And this is about having all the resources you need and creating your own reality. The snakes as well are great symbols of renewal. They shed their skin. And if you've ever seen snakes, if you've ever spent time with them, what you will discover is that it's not just a simple like, oh yeah, time to shed the skin, that's it, it's gone. It's more that they stop, they go very still for a couple of days, and their skin kind of clouds over, it goes very white, and they don't move. And so they look like they've petrified almost. And then they come out of that, they shed the skin, and they come out of that, and they come into a renewed state of being. So there is opportunity for renewal here. But overall, looking at those three cards together, I would say there's definite opportunity for magic, for creating our own reality. And so the way to do that is perhaps about bringing this, showing up in your true self, in your vulnerability, shining as you do, directing resources, and also being very aware of what is happening unconsciously. So the thing about creating our own reality is that one of the ways that we do that is with beliefs. Yeah, if we believe something's impossible, it almost certainly will be. And we can only make it possible if we believe that it is possible. So paying attention to our beliefs and allowing ourselves to have beliefs that support our outcomes, support what we wish to create, what we wish to align with, is really, really important this week. The next position then of guidance, what guidance is available to us this week. And this is a really positive reading. I'm loving it. This is the Knight of Cups. So the Knight of Cups is, this is someone who follows their heart. They follow their dreams. And it really is about being heart-led. And so just that, with these three other cards, this is really, really a reinforcer of, make... like the magic of the universe is here, accept it, let's allow ourselves to be pulled by it and to dive into it, and to put our dreams into it. So if you imagine we have this pool of the universal magic, yeah, it's available to us all. We don't just have to take from that pool, we can strengthen that pool by putting our own dreams into it, putting from our hearts, from our souls, into the universal pool of magic. So the guidance is to be heart-led. That's where you'll find your guidance. A couple of other things in this card. I can't say off the top of my head what kind of bird this is. I will look it up when I finish the reading. But it reminds me of two mythical or story birds. So the first is in the phoenix. Looks a bit like a phoenix, doesn't it, with that fiery tail. So we have the snakes down here, which symbolise renewal, and the phoenix is another symbol of renewal. So that is just something that is here that might be available to us now. So again, a really lovely positive message to have from this card. And the other is another renewal bird. So I don't know how many of you have ever read the Chronicles of Narnia. They were my favourite stories as a child, and first introduced me to the worlds of magic and of animism. And they are really nicely told stories. They're lovely stories. And in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, there was also a BBC adaptation when I was a child, which was really good. Films have nothing on it. But there is a scene where the people, they're on a voyage to the eastern end of the world, and they get to this island, and on this island lives a retired star. This is the Knight of Cups. On this island lives a retired star. So actually we've got the star here, fits into this story, and this retired star has a feast laid out at their table, and every morning as the sun rises, these birds come out of the where the sun is rising, and one of them carries a berry in its mouth, and it brings it to the retired star. And every day the retired star eats one of these berries that the bird brings, and every day becomes a little bit more renewed, a little bit younger, until the day that they become a newborn star and are ready to go back up into the heavens again. So we have lots and lots of themes of renewal coming through this reading, and this, you can even see the berries in the cup there, look, on the card. So we do have opportunities, I think, for renewal this week coming through all the cards. And then the guidance is really that the guidance is already in your heart. So not to say that's always easy. Sometimes we have to check what's coming from my heart, what's coming from my gut, what's coming from my head. Hopefully they'll all be in alignment, but not always. And occasionally the court cards can represent people as well. So I tend to read them as aspects of yourself, especially where there's only one in a reading. So, that part of you which is a dreamer, which is a poet, which is a quester, is here in the Knight of Cups. But you may also meet other people like that, or who speak to that part of you as well this week. And then finally the lunacy. Where's the lunacy? So this is where we might perhaps let our hair down and allow ourselves to just respond very, very instinctively to the week and what it brings us. And it's another major arcana. What a lovely reading here. To complete this, we've got the Hermit, and you'll see that the Hermit also has a star there, and it's a compass-like star. So again, that we follow our star, we follow our direction, don't we? So, allow ourselves to be guided by what's in the heart. Allow ourselves to go with that flow that's taking us in our direction where we want to go. And then the Hermit, I think this is a lynx, and I actually read a wonderful story in the news this week that here in the south of Portugal where I live, we have Iberian lynxes, and they were very, very close to extinction. And in Silver's, about 50 kilometres away from where I live, there is a lynx centre that is breeding the lynxes and then releasing them into the wild when it's time. And this week they released their 100th lynx into the wild, and the species is now considered to be safe to exist in the wild. So I think that centre will stay there. But the Iberian lynx is now considered to be safe in the south of Portugal. How cool is that? So I just wanted to share that story with you as we have the lynx here as the Hermit. And the Hermit is about, often the Hermit can be about retreating into ourselves or by ourselves. I tend to see this as the meditation card of the tarot. Go away and meditate, go and sit with it. And it may be that, we have this chance, if we wish to invite lunacy in, or maybe if we find ourselves perhaps a bit carried away by the lunacy, the way to bring things back into balance is to go and sit with it. And there is a wild aspect to the lynx, and as illustrated by the story I've just told, sometimes the wild things need nurturing as well. So these lynxes are being bred in captivity and nurtured until the point that they're ready to go off into the wild and survive in the wild. So there's something in here about the lunacy, about having that hermit space to nurture our own lunacy, and to be okay with that. And also, this is a very grounded card. Look at the way the lynx is resting on the ground, seated, paws down, very, very solid down there on the earth, while also with the attention in the heavens. So what I'm seeing in this is that, this practice of, doesn't have to be meditation, it might be ritual, whatever sort of spiritual practices you have. Maybe you go and sit by yourself under a tree or on a beach, or in your garden, or in an alcove in your home, in your bed, wherever it is that is a space that you can go and just be with whatever is there. And this is both our way to the lunacy and our way to stay grounded in the lunacy as a sacred practice. So that's our reading for this week. So I'll give you a quick summary now. We have what is peaking this week is the Star. The magic is the Two of Wands. The unconscious is the Magician. Guidance, the Knight of Cups. And lunacy, the Hermit. And so what we get here overall is a wonderful, wonderful invitation to trust that whatever's happening this week, it is taking us in the right direction. Trust that it's okay to show up in our authenticity. Trust that it's okay to be vulnerable. Allow ourselves to go deep. Allow ourselves to be aware of what's going on in the unconscious, and even to direct that if we choose, and there are ways that we can direct that, including working with belief work. Bringing together two elements in some way can help us with the magic. Energy work as well can help us with the magic. But allowing this, allowing ourselves to be in flow, in authenticity, in ourselves, in our magic, and to know what we want and to go for it. And not only that, but to know that that is in alignment with the universe. To follow our hearts. We've also got a theme of renewal going on throughout this reading. And then to give space to that sacred practice, because it's going to want us to give it some space this week. So that's our reading for the week ahead. Thank you very much for joining me.